What's up, guys? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast on Millions. Live streaming once again. Just want to remind you guys, real quick, to check our social medias for our exclusive offer through BetUS. Right now, if you go to the link in our bio or the pinned post in the Facebook group, they're giving you a 125% bonus on top of 30 risk-free bets. It is a phenomenal deal that they're giving to you guys right now, and I really hope you're taking advantage of it. So we will get into our bet record for week 2 here in just a minute. But first, what are you drinking, and how was your weekend?
Weekend was great. The My two oldest sons have a birthday next week, so we celebrated it yesterday. So it's kind of in and out watching games for a bit. Got like a big blow up side and with like the hook up the hose to it and everything. It was fun. Um, I've had a constant headache since as I went head first down and like smashed into the blow up wall. That was a lot harder than it looked. So
Yeah, that seems like a very poor choice.
yeah, I mean, no one's accused me of being like of making good choices very often. So it is what it is. I mean, YOLO. I'm just thankful I can walk, so that's cool. My back was always already jacked up, so I don't know if I if I made it any worse or not. But drinking wise, I'm not drinking anything today because I enjoyed myself a little bit too much yesterday. In the evening watching the Bama and Texas game. But so right now I'm drinking a diet Arnold Palmer. How about you?
No, it was good. It was good. Had a lot of fun watching football yesterday. Literally from 11 a.m. until like 1 a.m. So that was
Yeah.
a good time.
Mm.
Um, Today, actually, so last week I've talked about it on the show before, but last week I took my nephew to his first game. He goes to the same school system that CJ Allen went to. So he brought a sign into the stadium that said, CJ Allen's biggest fan. And I sent that picture to CJ, who responded right as we were coming on.
Mm.
Um, just sending some kind words back to my nephew. So that's super cool. So now we are the biggest Cash Jones and CJ Allen podcast out there that you'll find.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
because you gotta love good people, you know.
Hmm.
So that's really cool. But I am also not drinking today. Shocker of
Look
the
look
year
at
here.
look at us. Look at us.
I just haven't been feeling good. It's not
Same.
like it's definitely not COVID. It's just I don't know if there's something blooming or what's going on, but I got a bunch of like head pressure and I just don't feel good. So I'm drinking some
I,
water
yeah.
because I'm not calling out of work, so I don't really have a choice.
That, you know what, to be fair, when we had a bout with COVID in our house, a week or two ago, and it wasn't like a cough or anything like that. It was just kind of feeling crummy and some of the other traditional symptoms and stuff like that. So just
Well,
not feeling
hopefully
all
not running
there.
a fever.
Yeah, no, none of us were, but
Oh,
it was just we both like we had a few people test positive and just felt crummy just for a few days. But
with
um
those at home tests.
yeah, the Biden ones that they you put in the email or yeah, went on the website and they send you a bunch of them.
I'm actually asking Kelsey to get some tests now. Then.
So you can one thing you can do instead of waiting for it. This I know this is way off, and unless you're in the area, it means absolutely nothing. But at the health department over there on Eisenhower, there's a vending machine for a COVID test that you can go to. You don't have to have insurance or anything to get a test.
Well, it's like 20
So
bucks at Walgreens or whatever.
yeah. Oh yeah. But I think it's free in the vending machine regardless. I could and I
Oh,
think so. But you
oh,
do have to
okay.
send it in, and then it's not a rapid one. It's like you
Oh,
get it in like 5 days, and then you feel better at that point anyway.
yeah. Okay. Well, Kelsey said she would get some, so I may end up not working tomorrow, anyways. So that
There,
would really suck.
should I quarantine since we're so close?
No, but all the people that I hung out with today should.
I see you. I can literally touch the screen. You're right there.
No,
Oh, it
one of
works.
my good friends is walking from Tybee Island to the capital in Atlanta to
Oh,
to raise money for charity.
okay.
So
Not not just because he likes to run
no, no, no,
or
no. He's also running for governor in 2026.
oh, hell
So
yeah. Sweet.
he had a little like campaign kickoff thing before he started his walk, and I gave him a hug. So if he has COVID while he's walking to Atlanta, I'm gonna feel real bad.
That would be the worst. Not only just walking there, but oh my God. Hopefully
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Thoughts
Hope
and prayers.
yeah. I truly hope I do not, just for Ken's sake, who will
Yeah.
probably be listening to this tomorrow. So if I do end up positive, I am sorry.
Be like, what the F?
You know what? Just let me know where you're at. I'll come pick you up. You can do your walk. You can do your walk when you feel better.
Dang.
All right. So we're gonna kick things off once again with the Georgia game. So Ball State at Georgia, who is a 42.5 point favorite. Ball State covered by a half a point. Just interesting little. They don't build those billion-dollar casinos in the desert for nothing.
But you know what? If Georgia would have hit that field goal in the first quarter, things would have looked different. But sliding door. But I digress.
But we already told you don't bet on these lines. Just don't.
Mm. Unless it's a Vandy game, a Vandy Georgia game, then in that case, I okay it. But these non-conference games that mean no, there's no hostility at all. Don't touch it.
Yes. But if you were just looking at the team stats and the box score, you'd think this game was 2 or 3 possession game because while Ball State covered, Georgia still won this one 45-3 on the back of 3 interceptions. But we'll get to those here in a minute. Georgia total yards favored Georgia 386 to 224. Dogs had 287 yards passing and 99 yards on the ground, which goes to 3.5 yards per attempt. Makai Muse started a 31-point third quarter with a
Second quarter.
69
Second quarter. I miswrote
second,
that.
second, second,
Second.
second quarter with a 69-yard
Nice.
punt
Nice.
return for a touchdown. He also took a long kickoff return to start the game, 47 yards. He is just a human Swiss Army knife. I truly does not make sense.
His
Uh,
position should just be weapon, like in the game program, just weapon Makai moves.
Athlete.
Yeah. Athletic weapon.
Instead of, you know how they recruit guys as athletes?
Hmm.
He should have just stayed as an athlete.
That, shout out Grayson for you know, Georgia usually struggles in Gwinnett County getting guys, but
Especially
he
out of
walks
Grayson
on.
because their coach played for Alabama. Just gonna throw that out there.
Oh, but even just Gwinnett County in general, Georgia for whatever reason struggles. I know there's a lot of transient people out there, but um, yeah. So it's been a point of contention. But anyway, not recruiting there. Not trying to
so
recruit anybody yet.
so Carson Beck went 23 of 30 for 283 yards, which is 9.6 yards per attempt. You like seeing that number as close to 10 or higher as possible. 2 touchdowns and an interception, even though the interception wasn't his fault and it really should have been defensive pass interference, but that's beside the
Mhm.
point.
Yep.
Brock and Gunner both played well, but combined for 1 of 3 for 4 total yards. They really were not trying to score points once they put those guys in, which is a little disappointing. But
Gunner got the one play where he dropped back and got sacked. He got the crap knocked out of him.
and there's nothing he could have done. There is
No. Nope.
literally nothing.
Yeah.
Dylan Bell, surprisingly, was the most effective guy running the ball. 3 carries for 28 yards, including a 21-yard touchdown. Roderick Robinson, Freight Train, as we call him, 6 for 38 and one touchdown. Kendall Milton still looked really limited, having 4 carries for 18 yards and a touchdown. Thing about Kendall Milton is there were a lot of plays where a healthy Kendall Milton gets 20 yards there, in my
That's
opinion.
kind of the story of his career thus far, unfortunately.
Yeah, I do think that once Dejan gets a lot healthier, they'll be able to sit him and let him rest a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, I will say the next game and the game after that are not going to be super difficult in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they don't really need him too much.
Yeah.
12 different Bulldogs had at least one catch on the game, led by Arian Smith and Oscar Delp, who both had 2 catches for 50 yards. Oscar did have a 41-yard reception, and
Who?
Cash Jones
Who?
had a 27-yard touchdown grab in the third quarter. So, a lot of positive that we just talked about. I'm a bitch for a minute. It's kind of what I do. My biggest gripe with the offense so far into the season is stubbornness. I don't really know a better way to put it, but they have a relentless determination to run what they want to run, no matter what the defense is giving them.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, the defense that the other team ran out there was single high safety, man coverage, where it was press. Ball State did have a roving safety that mostly favored the field side, but the the defense is pretty much saying, yeah, run right at the edge. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just run here. Like you're not going to get short passes. You might get a long pass occasionally, but we are going to clog up the middle, and we're playing so hard man coverage on the outside that we're going where your receivers take us. So
Mm-hmm.
they easily could have had some off tackle runs, um, and just how all the runs attacking the edge or jet sweeps don't really do anything to go after that defensive formation, just because in man coverage the cornerback follows the wide receiver across formation as there to tackle him in the first place. But anyways, um, I do think they did a better job this week of getting big plays, but I do still think that there was a lot of meat left on the bone for what this offense is capable of. It's kind of frustrating, but I'm one of the people that hopes that they're really just saving the plays for when they need them.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you're not practicing those against a live defense, then you're probably not going to be good at them when the time comes to need them.
Yeah, I was gonna say it if you didn't. You're not doing Carson and the offense any favors by going vanilla and not, giving at least, a few exotic looks and things like that. Just to, get those game reps. Is like if you're gonna do, assuming obviously we play South Carolina next week, and I mean SEC game, obviously they have their own issues going on, but figure to at least open it up a little bit in this game, at least early on, until you get a lead. Presuming that or assuming that we can do that, which we should be able to do. And we'll talk obviously more about that next week, but would have liked to see a little bit more uh, creativity out there and letting Carson cook a little bit more in some different stuff. But I mean, a win's a win. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I think we're done kind of bitching about the offense for at least a minute or two. But the defense had an up and down game. They only allowed 77 yards on the ground, 147 through the air, 6 tackles for loss, which is a lot better than that one we saw last week,
Mhm.
and 0 sacks, which is kind of frustrating considering that's one of the things that I've said I really wanted to see this week.
Yeah, we're one sack through 2 games so far, so that's uh, not very 2021 of us. Like I had talked about before the season started, how I thought they were going to be closer to the 21 defense than they were the 22. So
But
that can still change, but yeah, we'll see.
They were bottom 10% of the country in sacks last season until the
Mm,
Tennessee game where they had 7.
mm,
So, crazy things happen. A lot of times it's game plan and how aggressive you want to be.
mm.
But I still think we can be a little frustrated about it.
Yeah, I mean, you want to strive for better. Sacks are fun. It's so much fun to
Sacks
watch
are
a
fun.
quarterback get hit, blindsided and just wrecked like Hooker did, in that Tennessee game like last year. So want to see it. I mean, I don't know what the havoc rate is or anything like that. I didn't look too deep into that because again, it's Ball State and UT Martin, so you know is what it is. But yeah, would like to see some more chaos out there, havoc out there on that side.
You know where they did cause some chaos?
Where's that?
In the secondary with
Yo,
Malachi, Tyke, and Chaz Chambliss getting in on some takeaways. Chaz had that phenomenal heads up play
mm-hmm.
where it was just a perfect deflection off the heel of that the guy that was
Offensive lineman.
blocking.
Yeah,
The tight end
I
was
don't.
blocking. The quarterback threw it to him
Mhm.
three
He
feet
kicked up.
low
Yeah, his foot kicked up and it went back like 10 feet. I don't understand how it bounced like that off a foot.
perfectly.
Yeah,
All the time they talk about, oh, Amazon Web Service stats. Give me the Amazon Web Service stat of the probability of that ball getting thrown at his heel, and instead of going off to any of the sides, when you have a pointed surface hitting a curved surface and coming straight back without going end over end
mm.
to Chaz. Like that's the Amazon Web Service I want to see.
I know. I think in the group chat, I know I can't remember who pointed it out, but I think it was right after that interception. They had instead of zooming in on Chaz, they zoomed in on Cash Jones, or when they were talking about Chaz, they went on Cash Jones, and
Yes,
it's kind of problematic, ESPN. But okay,
it is. But in the SEC, when you have two white guys wearing the same number, it's it's bound to happen.
they all look the same. Am I right?
The sad thing is, those guys do have very similar facial structure.
They do, but Chaz is tatted up at least on one arm.
Yes, and Cash Jones has long hair.
Yeah, Cash. Add some ink to that too. They'll help even more. Promise.
Um, while we're bitching about the broadcast, ESPN had multiple stats that they got wrong about everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, saying that Georgia's last punt return for a touchdown was what? What did they say? 2004 or something?
Yeah, it was
2007?
like they had said it was like right after the Stitchcomb era, like early in the Rick era. It's like no, Isaiah McKenzie was a thing.
Isaiah McKenzie did get one against Louisiana, as they're
Mm,
now called, instead of Louisiana Lafayette.
mm.
But Miko Hardman also had one against Middle Tennessee State in 2018. So they missed two just
Yeah,
over the last 7 years.
yeah. There's been a few in the Kirby Smart era, not going back to early Rick, but okay. Yeah,
Um, that was just absolute. That Amazon, let's get on it. I want to hear it. I want
mm,
to see that stat.
yeah.
So now we're gonna get into some things that we liked from the game. And Mike, you can go ahead and get us kicked off there.
All right, so I think I'm speaking for every Georgia fan out there, and Makai Muse has been the best dog throughout the first 2 weeks of the season. You can't really convince me otherwise. I mean, he has been super effective, even in. I mean, he's played a lot on offense as well, but special teams has been. I don't want to say he was like Devin Hester necessarily, but I mean, he's
He's getting
he's
close.
he's elusive. I mean, honestly, okay. So we talked about opening kick. He brought back what 47 yards or over 40 yards to midfield. Had the punt return touchdown for 69 yards. In the first
Yes.
game, he almost broke open a kickoff as well. So I mean that's a weapon right there, especially as the offense is trying to figure things out for him to put them in good field position, maybe even in plus territory. That's awesome. Um, but yeah, for that I definitely loved that quite a bit. How about you?
No, so my one of the favorite things that I saw yesterday was a commitment to making the deep ball work. So
Mm,
while I was still frustrated about their lack of outside run attack, the way that they were pushing the ball down the field when they had the opportunity to, I love that. I love the O line for the most part was
mm,
able to give Carson longer protection. I think Roger Robinson and Cash Jones did a lot for that as well.
mm,
But with Carson having almost 10 yards per attempt is absolutely huge for his confidence. He was
mm.
making better reads this week, but that commitment to the deep ball is really big moving forward,
Mm.
especially considering that South Carolina is currently 101st in passing yards allowed this season, giving up 256 a game. And
Wow.
that's between North Carolina, where they had two turnovers and still gave up a ton of passing yards, and yesterday they
Furman,
played
right?
Furman.
Yeah. I was gonna say the same thing. Is like I loved Carson seemed a lot more comfortable in game two versus game one. Seemed more accurate with it. Although again, him running the ball still scares me a little bit because he's going back to what was it, the Sanford game last year when he was out there, he had a fumble as well when he I think in the same spot.
Very
Um,
similar. Very similar.
yeah, it's kind of the same situation where it just kind of pops out. I don't know, what he was doing there, but he definitely seemed a lot more comfortable. I mean, he's obviously athletic, but he's got to do a better job, tucking that ball in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he seemed a lot more comfortable out there, so that bodes well for any quarterback controversy that may have started from last week.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and give your things we didn't like, I am going to adjust my camera real quick.
All right. So two things that kind of concern me a little bit, and that's a relative term because it still won by 42 points. But some things that possibly could be an issue going forward. So I talked about it a little bit earlier when we were talking about the tackles for loss and not only not having any sacks, but the pass rush really, again, not getting any sacks. They did have this overall. They had six tackles for loss, but they did get some pressure on the quarterback, but like I said, they've only had one sack through two games, and again against less than average competition. UT Martin's FCS team, Ball State, is a upper top, upper tier MAC team for what it's worth. Obviously not the best of the group of five, but they're not. They have their moments. The MAC always upsets one or two teams each year, especially in September, but. Um, I think even more so, the thing I'm more concerned about, honestly, is the run game. And again, we alluded to this earlier. The team only had 99 yards combined on the ground, and honestly, Dylan Bell, he only had three carries, but he might be somebody that deserves some more looks at that spot, considering how crowded the wide receiver position is. And kind of reminded me of what happened with Ty Montgomery with the Packers a number of years ago, where their running back depth was just decimated, and he had like a number in the 80s, I think, out there, and they threw him out there at running back, and he had some really good games for those that played fantasy. I think I picked him up and did pretty well with him for a little bit, but that could be something that they could possibly look into until Edwards gets back, Milton gets back on track. And Cash Jones can get a better feel for actually running the ball because he's definitely more of a threat receiving it like we talked about in the preseason. But running game, if we need to run, can we get those short yards? Can we convert those fourth and shorts and things like that? That's something that is going to make me a little bit nervous going into like SEC play and the meat of our schedule. So we need to get those guys healthy, be able to run the ball more effectively. Ernest Green on the offensive line has been an utter disappointment with in that regard so far.
Yeah, his play has been not great.
Mm-hmm.
I will say there was one guy that came in. I'll look it up real quick. There was one guy that came in for Truss for a minute that I really liked what he did in his few snaps.
I heard
And
somebody. I thought I heard somebody talk about that. I can't remember who it was or where I was listening to it at, but talking about maybe Truss, having the possibility of maybe losing his job to that player. And again, I can't remember his name off the top of
so
my head.
it was Jared Wilson.
Okay.
Redshirt sophomore, came in for a few plays. He wasn't a guy that we were even really talking about
Mm-mm.
for that guard spot. We were more talking about Micah Morris, Monroe Freeling, Dylan Fairchild. Those were the guys that we were thinking might have taken that guard spot if it was open.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, I thought he did really well considering he only had a few plays, and as soon as he came in, there was a noticeable difference in the way the line played.
Yeah.
Another guy that I think might get some looks in the backfield, especially if the health doesn't get better in the coming weeks. Muse put
Hey. Yeah.
put Mighty Mouse in the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
He's done everything else.
He's the better size for that too. Like what we say he is 5'8", 5'9", like
He's listed at
being
five
generous.
eight, and I don't necessarily believe it.
He's not what's his face from Kansas State last year that's on the Cowboys now. He's not that
He
small, but
he is
he's
not
not
too
much
small.
bigger. Yeah, he's not that small, but he's not not that much bigger either.
Yeah.
But that could be a really good spot for him. I didn't even consider that, but yes, I'm all for that.
So one of the things that concerned me, I've already kind of hit on it a little bit, but the lack of attacking the edge on offense without using a jet sweep. Maybe two or three toss plays in each game, but I'm talking about just an off tackle run, straight, hand the ball off, hit that tackle spot. I don't know why they're not doing it. It's very frustrating. Um,
Because it's not exotic. You're not giving anything away by running outside. So I don't. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, it's not. There's no rule that says you can only run between the tackles or do jet sweeps.
Mhm.
I know other teams do it.
Yeah,
Why have we not?
that's a
Um,
good question.
but I think especially with younger guys like Roger Robinson or Freight Train as we like to call him, and then Andrew
Mhm.
Paul, both being able to run through tackles, they've got that ability. So if you have a defensive back trying to tackle one of those guys, it's probably not going to go well.
Yeah.
And they both have the ability to make somebody miss. I mean, just
Mhm.
give them room to make a play.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
You think Paul still has like the mental issues with the knee injury that he had last year, just getting past that?
I don't know. I I don't think so. I think it's more of a because he wasn't able to take live snaps for the better part of a year
Mhm.
that he's kind of struggling to get the scheme down. I mean, Mike Bobo notoriously has a scheme that's not the easiest to get for true freshmen.
Mhm.
Um, so it would not at all surprise me if that was a factor to it. But I also just think that Kirby doesn't want him to get hurt again because he's seen how young guys dealing with back to back injuries can have
Mhm.
such an impact on the way that they play for the rest of their career.
And just the again, like we talked about, the running back depth is a much bigger concern than I think we probably even thought about going into the season. Because I mean, we already knew about all this, but it's definitely worse than I think I even thought it was, and I was kind of more pessimistic about it going into it.
Yeah, no, you were definitely more pessimistic than I was. I just, with all how they downplayed Dejan's injury,
Mm,
I assumed that he would be okay.
yeah.
Um, at least, hoping by the time we got to the point we're at now, that he would be okay. And last week he was dressed out. Last week he did warm up. So he was
Well, both weeks too,
more.
wasn't he? Was he in uniform both weeks?
He was, but I don't remember seeing him warm up against
Okay.
UT Martin. So he did
Okay.
like the full pregame thing, and Kirby even said that he was available in a reserve role if necessary for the Ball State game.
Yeah.
Um, so fingers crossed, we might be getting to a point that we can see Dejan get back out there because I know we're all really high on his potential.
Yeah. Yeah. Ideally, I mean, you hopefully you don't have to use him the next 2 weeks, and he's good for the Auburn game because you're really going to need somebody with that veteran presence going into Jordan Hare at the end of September, which is still a crime that we're playing this game when it's going to be as hot as it is. But
I know that you had not taken over for Wes for the Auburn game last year,
mhm,
but here we disrespect Auburn and call it Jordan Hare because we know how
Jordan
to
Hare.
pronounce English words.
Mhm.
So
Jordan Harris.
yeah, Let's
Michael Jordan don't have no freaking hair.
let's let's be disrespectful here. I mean, come
Yeah.
on now.
Ah, how
So
did they? Oh no, never mind.
no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
No, it was going to be completely a complete tangent. But I wonder during like COVID and stuff like that, with all the toilet paper shortage, like what they even did for fun at Toombs Corner.
Well, they weren't able to roll the trees because they were still getting healthy from when someone tried to kill them.
That's fair. They couldn't even wipe their ass. I'm sure it smelled. Yeah, and I know we're going to talk about the Auburn and Cal game later. Just kind of like touch on it, but I had mentioned it to you. Like, do you think any of the Auburn fans that made the trip out to Berkeley were able to pick up on like the low key roasting they probably got during like tailgating and stuff like that? Because there ain't no way that they picked up on all of it.
Okay, so there's a few assumptions that you made there. One is that Auburn fans can afford to travel to California.
They had some people out there though.
Um, the second is that they have tailgating at Cal.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Um, but if the stars aligned and they did make it, no, they used words that were bigger than two syllables. There's no way they understood what was going on.
Your epidermis is showing. Oh, what? Sorry.
So the second thing that concerned me about the game on Saturday was the rotation on both sides of the ball. And, I get it during these games against lesser talented teams, but I don't like how difficult the rotation is making it for guys to get into rhythm. I feel like that's a big issue, especially in the wide receiver group. But, inside linebacker, wide receivers, running backs, even the quarterbacks with that kind of rotation, not so much quarterbacks, but towards the end of the game, I think that could have been an issue. But
Mm,
like linebackers, wide receivers, and running backs were getting rotated every single play. And not only does that make it more difficult for them to get into rhythm, but for inside linebackers, if play to play, you don't know who's going to be playing right next to you. You don't know, like which guy is doing the communicating, which guy is getting the play call. You're as much as these guys have practiced together, I really doubt that, you know, a freshman and a senior, for, just for an example, know exactly how each other are going to react during these plays. And I think while it may not have been an issue so far, it could definitely be an issue moving forward.
hmm
And more importantly, it seems as if it would make early game evaluation impossible because not all of these guys have seen every situation.
hmm Especially with like the running backs, you're talking about like the rotation. If you're getting pulled out every single play, you're probably going to try to do too much while you're out there because you're going to get pulled. So you want to make the most of your time out there. So instead of getting in a rhythm, you're going to try to do too much. So that again, that definitely does not help the running back room, the rushing attack that we talked about ad nauseum so far. So yeah, I'm on board with you on all that.
Okay, pause. CJ Allen's mom just posted the picture of my nephew.
Yeah, there we go.
So, huge. Huge. Oh no, that was CJ Allen. Not my bad.
Oh,
I can't read.
okay.
I can't read. Okay.
Either way, that would
Paul.
be. Are you following CJ Allen's mom?
No, my sister
Oh,
sent me a picture. My sister
oh, okay.
teaches my sister teaches at
Oh,
Lamar County Schools.
okay. That's right. That's right. You did say that.
Hold on. We may get a video call from my nephew real quick.
Let's go.
We're doing it live.
Effort. We're doing it live.
Hey buddy, what's up? You're welcome,
Hey.
buddy. I know, I saw it. He was so happy that you're a big fan of his. You know, I, I bet if he comes back to Lamar County Schools that he's going to try to find you. No.
I have views.
All
How many people like me?
right, buddy. Can I try to call you back when I'm done? I'm in the middle of recording right now.
Recording what?
My podcast.
What's that? Where you talk on the radio? Oh, okay.
All right. I love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
See, be good people. That's the moral
Yeah.
of the story here.
Hmm.
I don't remember where I was at, but we'll go to players of the game.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're pretty much done with that. I think you're up first with that.
All right. So, defensive players of the game, or player of the game, and I hate to be repetitive, but I think Tyke Smith just stood out too much
Mm.
to go anywhere else with the difference he made on Saturday. He was third on the team in tackles, 3 total, 2 solo, 1.5 tackles for loss, and an interception.
Mm.
And I'm gonna once again be repetitive. If you're replacing Javon Bullard, who was by far the most or the best star defender in college football last season, you couldn't have done a better job than replacing him with former All-American Tyke Smith.
Yeah. We said it after the first game that Tyke and Malachi are going to be a effing problem this year, and they both showed it
Absolutely.
again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm. All right, so I'm gonna talk about the offensive player of the game, in my opinion, and it's tough because nobody particularly stood out. Usually Brock Bowers is going to be the one that you think of most, but he only had one reception for 3 yards, so he was non-existent out there. And again, nobody really stuffed the stat sheet all that much. So I'm going to go with Carson Beck there. So the ball was spread out pretty evenly again through the air, and the running back struggled to get much going. So Carson Beck's by default is going to be my offensive player of the game. He did again was more accurate. He was better on Saturday against Ball State than he was against UT Martin the week prior. And you talked about this before, and I was going to say it here too. But the interception that he threw was not his fault. It should have been called, defensive pass interference there. So not mad at him in that sense at all. And that's kind of a wonky, bounce up play, and the other guy got it anyway. But again, he was a lot more accurate, especially after the first quarter. He still has, the team is still starting off really slow, which is again another concern that I would have. But going from the second quarter on, and I guess Carson was good for the most part in that first drive as well in the first quarter, but second quarter on, he was much better, much more comfortable. So I would give it to Carson Beck.
Yeah, I think if we can continue to see the improvement from week 1 to week 2 to week 3, and then when you go to week 4 against UAB, like if you can improve week to week, and then once you get to that game at Auburn,
Mm.
I think we're gonna have a hard time remembering after that game. Man, we were all mad at Carson Beck halftime against UT Martin.
Mm-hmm. Really go. I mean, even when he had took over in, I think was it I think it was 2020 or maybe it was 21. I can't remember. But when Stetson started that game at Jordan Hare, uh, I said it the right way there. Um, we weren't super confident about him going into it. Then he kind of proved the haters and doubters wrong there. So maybe that will be Carson's like real coming out party over there in on the plains.
Yeah, I am looking forward to that. And so we do have a new award that we're going to give out. Um, next to we may or may not do every week. It's just kind of going to be a game flow situation there. But this award, we're going to call it Boom's New Dog of the Week. And so this award, obviously named after Boom because he's the new dog, you know.
And he got his jersey. They didn't let him wear it week 1.
It was too hot to wear it week 1.
That's fair. How much more comfortable was it Saturday? Oh no, you weren't there. Never mind.
I didn't go. No, I didn't
But
go.
Saturday, I mean, at least in our neck of the woods, it was much more tolerable yesterday than it was the week before.
Absolutely. So this is just going to be the guy, not necessarily a freshman, but the guy that has kind of waited his turn, found a spot on the team, and played really well for the role that he was put into. It's kind of, we want to highlight as many of these guys as possible. And so this week, Boom's new dog of the week is Cash Jones.
Who?
Cash Jones.
Who?
I think he's got to be Boom's new dog of the week just because he wasn't the biggest factor in the run game, but his blocking ability is up there within the group of healthy wide or running backs at this point. And he had that phenomenal 27-yard touchdown catch that showed everybody who doubted him why he is playing as big a role in the offense as he is. And his receiving ability out of the backfield is actually one of the reasons why we said way earlier in the offseason that he was going to have a larger role in the offense this year.
Yeah, I mean Kenny Mack-esque, and that's something that we definitely need if we're not going to be able to be, as good on as good rushing as we were in prior years.
Yeah, no, huge play there, and we hope to continue to see big things from Cash.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then the last one, we're still kind of workshopping this name, but just as this week at the very least, we're just going to call it the hungriest dog of the game so far. So someone that went out there and showed out, and obviously showed grit, determination, and really went the extra effort to play well and make his name put his name out there and make himself known. And again, we're being repetitive here because a few guys stood up, but I don't know how you can give it to anyone else besides Mekhi Muse. His contributions on special teams, of course, can't be ignored. And then he also did have 3 catches for 27 yards. So, I mean, he was all over the place. Like you talked about earlier, he's a Swiss Army knife, especially with Ladd McConkey still not out there. So he has been a breath of fresh air and the newest walk-on sensation, and we know how that goes. So looking forward to a great rest of the year for him, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I mean, I truly think that Mackay could have won a couple of awards this week, but we don't want to be that repetitive.
I mean, if you put him on defense, shit, he might have won that one too.
Yeah, I could absolutely see him getting a pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So we do not have a freshman of the week this week, just because there weren't really that many guys that stood out except for the big names.
Mm-hmm.
We hope that we can have freshman of the week every week moving forwards. That would be great, even if it
Yeah.
is Malachi Starks every week, like it was for half of the season last year.
Yeah.
So that is going to do it for the Georgia Ball State recap. We're going to move on to the biggest game of the week, and that is the
NSC Austin P.
No. That
Oh.
was the most disappointing game of the week for a lot of people.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Different. I mean, we love seeing both of these fan bases disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
But we're actually talking about the real UT here, and that is University of Texas Austin beat Alabama 37-27. Alabama obviously did not cover as they were favored by 7 points. And the over hit with the total score of 64 points when the over-under was set at 54.5. Wait, did I do that math wrong?
Yeah, it was over the 54.5. But Texas won 34-24. That's what I had.
I wasn't even drinking last night. I thought it was 37-27.
It was a 10-point game regardless. I mean, it felt like there was a lot more points than what the score actually indicated there.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for keeping me honest here, because I 100% thought it was 37-27.
Either way, they lost by 10 at home for the first time in almost, I think, 20 years. Or Nick
Yes,
Saban lost.
No, this was Alabama's first home loss of 10 or more points since 2000, and I want to say they said it was 6. Snaps Alabama's countrywide home win streak of 22 games, bringing Georgia to lead that battle at now 22 games. And if we're being entirely honest, if the Florida game was a home and home instead of neutral site, it would actually be 24, and Georgia would have already had that. But that's a side point.
Yeah.
So Quinn Ewers, you know, with everything they talked about, if you guys watched the game, you saw how they talked about his transformation over the last year. Got religious,
Got an
um,
adult haircut.
adult haircut, took his diet seriously, started actually working out, which is insane that he was as good as he was when he didn't work out, but
Mhm.
went 24-38 for 349 yards and three touchdowns against an Alabama secondary that was supposed to be the best in the country. Um, he also had his first career touchdown passes on throws of more than 20 yards in the air, which is just insane to think about.
Right, that he went all last season on just, shorter passes
He
on
only played
touchdowns. But
half of last season.
yeah, that's fair. But even then, I mean, even playing against lesser competition, and he didn't even do it last week against JT Daniels and that food university over there in Texas. But
That food university beat a Power 5 program yesterday.
oh yeah, Houston. Oh my God. So there's a reason why the Big 12 didn't want Houston all this time, and that is exactly the reason.
Yup.
Oh man, that oof, oof.
So I think it's an easy argument after this game to say that Texas may have one of the best wide receiver rooms in all of college football, and that's throwing in tight end Jatavian Sanders, who had 5 for 114, damn good dog, and Bama slaughter fest. That is A.D. Mitchell had 3 for 78 and two touchdowns. Probably would have been more if every time the ball was thrown his way, Terry and Arnold didn't just drag him to the ground. But that's
Yeah,
you know.
side of the point. Yeah.
And then Xavier Worthy had 5 for 75 and one touchdown, and his one touchdown, if that was
Ooh, ooh,
half a
ooh.
degree off from Quinn Ewers,
Mhm.
wasn't a touchdown. If that
I
was
yeah.
if Xavier Worthy hadn't made the perfect adjustment on the ball, not a touchdown. That was two guys 100% in sync using the last 2 years of practice to
Mhm.
make a phenomenal touchdown.
That and when you were watching that game live, when that he let go of that pass or threw it, you couldn't see the ball until it landed in Worthy's hands. Like that shit was I mean, everyone kept saying a moonshot. I mean, I think that's being generous. Like that was insane. You could not see where that ball was at.
Yeah, no, I would once again, I would love to get the Amazon Web Service stats on that
It was
pass.
the launch angle and exit velocity of that pass.
Yeah, like hey, I know there's still baseball going on, but can we get that for that pass?
Hey, the Braves clinched today, or a spot at least. I don't know about the East, but they clinched a spot.
Um, if the Phillies lost like they were in the ninth inning earlier today, which I will check right now because I am interested. Um, yes, Phillies lost. Magic number is 6 to clinch the East.
Hell yeah.
Anyways, where are we at? Football.
Bama losing.
Bama losing. Yes. And the Texas defensive line played well at times, really pushed around what would be the largest line in the NFL. One thing, I sent it in the group chat, and I was talking to Grayson yesterday after Ole Miss took about 10 years off my life with that bet.
Yeah.
But Bama having an offensive line that big, I think is going to hurt them more in SEC play than it's going to help them. Because yeah, it's
Mm.
cool to say you have two 360-pound offensive linemen, great. But when you got these guys that have to go against super athletes for 60 minutes, they're not going to be able to do it.
Mm.
Like there's a reason that The Mountain and Brian Shaw don't compete in endurance sports.
Right.
Like it's carrying around that much weight is exhausting.
Mm.
Um, but if it were not for the BS non-safety call in this game last year and Quinn Ewers getting hurt, Texas would probably be 2-0 versus Alabama under Steve Sarkisian. And I think Sark outcoached Alabama
Mm.
with this game.
Yeah, the amount of and it took a while to kind of get going. for him. But the amount of motion and just stuff like that. I mean, Sark obviously knows what works against a Saban defense, being there for the years that he was there. But I mean, I thought it was one of the best called games that he's had, especially given the circumstances and all that, the expectations. Um, Kind of going into that game, but just like all the different motions and things like that, quick releases, like opportune, moonshots, like we talked about a little bit before. I thought Sark did a hell of a job in that game.
Oh, it was phenomenal. And then
Mm-hmm.
also, to be only the third assistant since 2003
Mm-hmm.
to beat Nick Saban, and for him to show the class that he did in the interview,
Yeah.
and when he went over and didn't just shake Nick Saban's hand but actually gave him a hug,
Mm-hmm.
loved that.
I think they mentioned it at the end of the broadcast as well, where all the Texas fans went down to the field, or the hedges there, and were singing their song, their alma mater song, or whatever. But Sark actually also beat, I think his first year when he was at Washington, he beat Pete Carroll when Pete Carroll was still at USC in like the last year or so there. So he's not unable to beat his mentors, or where he's the elder members of like his coaching tree, or like where he came from. So it's pretty impressive.
Oh, absolutely. With the way they played yesterday, I think the SEC, other teams in the SEC, are a little bit more worried now
Yeah. Hmm.
than they were.
Absolutely.
I will shout us both out here because we both called it in the off season, but Bama is not. They're not who they used to be by any stretch of the imagination. They're not who they were when Kirby was there. They're
Was
not.
Kirby was Kirby the program? So people
Well,
are asking.
they were still pretty good
Yeah.
for like 2 or 3 years after that. I mean, obviously they
Yeah, they
went on a
won.
run in 2020 that was
Mhm.
insanity.
Yeah, they won two national championships after Kirby left. So I mean, to say that the culture left after Kirby left is just being facetious and just trolling, but it hasn't been the same necessarily, at least like defensive wise.
No. And I mean, you put it in here, but Bryce masked so many issues for that team.
Mm,
With, I, you know, he was, when you compare what, I mean, even going back to Tua, even going
yeah.
back to what Jalen Hurts did, and
Hmm.
then looking at their current quarterback situation,
Well, hell, even Mac Jones too.
yeah, like
Yeah.
if you are a quarterback that makes Mac Jones look as good as he does in comparison, you probably shouldn't be starting at Alabama.
Right. It was definitely tough. I mean Bryce Young, obviously the first quarterback to win the Heisman from Alabama, or that played at Alabama, was something. And even then, even having a Heisman winning quarterback and having he had a great year the last year as well for the most part, they still weren't able to win a national championship with him. And he's number one pick. Now
Yeah.
he didn't help like the Panthers today so much, but he's a rookie. He'll get there. He let the Falcons kind of run all over them, but he doesn't play defense, so that's not really his fault. But scoring 10 points doesn't help either. But um, yeah, I mean, going from the Ferrari that is Bryce Young to great value Anthony Richardson at quarterback definitely amplifies whatever issues that Bryce Young masked for them the last few years.
It's like going from a Ferrari to a Geo Metro.
Ooh.
You know, no, now Jalen is faster than Geo Metro.
I would. What about Milrow being like a 2006 Altima?
That's literally what I was about to say.
Yeah,
Duct tape
bumper's
holding the
falling
bumper
off.
up.
He's getting the crap kicked out of him. He's all dented up because offensive line can't protect him. He's speeding around because he's driving for his life out there. I mean, he's he's an ultimate. He should get an NIL deal from Nissan and not the Heisman House, as he's not obviously going to get there. But he needs he needs to get that right away. If a dealership, if obviously Nick Saban does have a Nissan dealership, I don't think. I know he has a dealership, but um, yeah, he needs to get an Altima right now.
Yeah, I mean, so just to kind of quantify the day that Jalen Milrow had, he had as many touchdowns as interceptions. And through 2 weeks of the college football season, his touchdown to tackle ratio is 5-1.
That is Anthony Richardson-esque. It really is. He's the great value store brand version of Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, he's I, it's like if you if you put Anthony Richardson in Amazon and just bought the cheapest option.
The Wish version of him, if you will.
It's is Wish still a thing?
I was just gonna ask you that. We got some Christmas presents for the boys from Wish, and they ended up getting here in like June. So I don't know. Hopefully not.
That's hilarious. The one time I ordered something for Wish, it took so long to get here, I forgot I ordered it.
It's a surprise. You're like, oh, Wish with the surprise. They're just gifting me things. It's like a reward.
Yeah, you put it in here because my hearing shot, but
Mhm. I didn't catch it during the game. I went back and got on my mom's YouTube TV account that I'm part of the family plan there for, even though I don't really use it all that often. But for college football, it's awesome. I hate to give free plugs, but I do looking at that. They give you all the key plays like as it happens. So you can go back and watch like an even more like succinct version of the game, which is nice. But I went back and watched that, and they did the last key play, and then they kind of just let the rest of the game roll out from there. But at the very end, when all and I talked about this a little bit before, but when all the Texas fans that came to the game went down, to field level, and they were doing the alma mater song and all that. Um, or I think it was even before that when Ewers was doing his kneel downs and stuff. You could hear the SEC chants like loud and clear in the background, which these fans, the Texas fans, and we can talk about how bad Tennessee fans were after they beat Alabama, but Texas fans are going to be, I think, maybe on a whole another level obnoxious after that, and it started right then.
yeah, UT both,
Both
they
UTs,
both
it's a
wear
UT
orange.
thing.
They're both UT.
Mhm.
One is a phenomenal city, one is not, but they're both just terrible to deal with.
One has a disproportionate amount of banger songs written about it.
Which one is that?
Oh, I mean, every song Morgan Wallen has talks about East Tennessee and Knoxville and shit like that. So,
Oh, I thought you were talking about Austin because there are a lot of good songs about Austin too.
oh no, I'm just thinking about Morgan Wallen. That's the only that honest to be honest, that's the only music that Lincoln will let me listen to if I'm taking him to football. So I haven't heard any new music since March.
So we've mentioned it a few times the Texas School Spirit song. I couldn't
Yeah,
understand the lyrics, but
it
I recognized the tune.
it was like I'll be working on the railroad,
Yeah,
right?
it's set to the tune of "I've Been Working on the Railroad," but it's called "The Eyes of Texas."
And I've heard it before, but like it struck me too. Like I was gonna mention that if you didn't, it was oh my god, they're just making up nursery rhymes to sing after the game. What?
Yeah, that was absolutely wild. But
Yeah.
so Saturday was Texas's first win against a top three team since Oklahoma in 2008, and it was also Saban's first double-digit loss at home since 2003 when notable coach Ron Zook
Mhm.
took the Gators into LSU and won 19-7.
That that is a wild sentence, isn't it?
It's that sounds like some Big Ten shit.
Yeah, well, he did kind of do the same crap at Illinois. He took Illinois to the Rose Bowl one year. So Ron Zook, a better coach than you remember him being.
Absolutely. Um, Texas jumped from 11th to 4th in the AP poll that came out today, and Bama dropped to 10th, which is kind of wild for me.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, we've already kind of talked about it. UT, once they beat Alabama, whether it was last year or this year, they're just awful. I
Hmm.
would bet money that they're going to poke their heads into some SEC groups here soon and
Hmm.
just be terrible.
Yeah, I had talked about it. I think in the off season, just kind of preparing for it because I think Drew Page because I saw it. I don't know why it came up. Somebody had liked it a day or two ago. But like Drew Page asked if we were ready for the influx of Texas fans like back in like June, and I floated the idea of just pretending like we've never heard of Texas before. Just like if someone talks about them being from Harvard, you act like you've never heard of the school before. So that could be fun.
That's a solid plan. I think we should all do that.
Texas, like that thing that Sandy talked about in SpongeBob, like that's a school. What?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're talking about Texas A&M, right?
Yeah, the Oh no, it's the one with the stars in the helmet, right?
Or or what's that one? Houston. You're talking
Yeah,
Houston?
they have a problem. Yeah, that's weird. They have a football team. Like what city are they from? I have no idea.
Lubbock? Is that say it
Yeah,
again?
that's like I've always heard Lubbock is one of the best cities to go to in Texas. Definitely on my bucket list.
So moving on to actually one of the best cities to take a vacation to, and that is
Yep.
the game in New Orleans. Ole Miss, who is a 7.5 point favorite, closed at 8 yesterday morning, but they played at Tulane. Over under was 65 and a half. Ole Miss, you were on the train before me. You go ahead and go through this because I am
Yeah. So
just wow.
yeah, if you aren't on the lane train yet, especially how I talked about it, you talked about it, and I mean we've kind of been on since what June, more or less, or even July at the latest. Like, what are you doing, especially after the rest of the how the rest of the West? That's harder for me to say than it should be, but how the rest of the West looked so far the first 2 weeks. Like, what are you doing? um, Ole Miss, they won 37-20, so they did cover that 8 point spread, or at the time when we recorded the 7.5 one. But the score was definitely not indicative of how close this game actually was. Jackson Dart played maybe his best game in a Ole Miss uniform. 300 over 300 all-purpose yards, and he had a couple of just clutch plays on fourth down late in this game to put it away for Ole Miss to hit the over and ultimately cover at the same time, which both were in doubt within like the last 90 seconds of this game or
Oh
so.
yes, yes.
Oh, it was so whew, it saved me. But and we'll get to that later. But one of the Ole Miss defense thing, something that won't get talked about a lot, is that the Ole Miss defense only allowed 3 points in the second half. And I know Michael Pratt didn't play in this game. He was the National Player of the Week 1, and they obviously missed him quite a bit. But to
Calhoun
allow
wasn't a slouch.
no, I mean he beat USC in last year in the Cotton Bowl. Like it was a big missing piece for them, considering again they are Tulane. They're not used to be in the SEC, but they're not. They don't recruit at the even Ole Miss caliber or anything like that. So to have like one of your aces in the hole not be able to play, definitely hurt them. But hopefully you all listen to us and put money on that because you would have won.
Yes. So I think one of the more underrated sequences in this game was the Rebel defense made a stop on a critical fourth down while leading by 3.
Mhm.
Tulane had already gotten the ball into field goal range, could have tied the game, decided to go for it on 4th and 2, only got a single yard, turned the ball
Mhm.
over on downs. Ole Miss extended the lead to 10 5 plays later. At,
And even in not garbage time, but even when Tulane got the ball back and where it still could have put the spread in doubt, they did have a scoop and score, and they knocked the crap out of their backup quarterback there and brought it back to the house. Which again, Ole Miss defensive scores are not usually a thing that you account for, but so happy to see it.
yeah, no, that was a very surprising turn of events by the Ole Miss defense, and another very surprising turn of events with defense was Miami just running through Texas
Mhm.
A&M's defense.
Yeah,
A&M was 4.5 point favorites going into this Miami game with the over under 51.5. The over 100% hit.
oh, I mean,
Um,
Miami almost covered that on their own.
yeah. Uh, Miami may not be back yet. Let's cool it there with the
Mhm.
we're back thing because Texas has done it, Tennessee's done it, Miami's done it. None of them have been correct.
Yep.
But with 100% certainty, Tyler Van Dyke is. He had 374 yards and 5 touchdowns in a 48-33 win over the Aggies. Neither team played great,
Mhm.
but Miami was able to settle down in the second half and ultimately just really run away with this game.
Mhm.
Um, I'm gonna call myself out here, and I was personally a year early on Miami. If you remember way back last season, I said that they were going to play in the ACC championship. I thought they were going to beat Clemson last year.
Mhm.
None of those things that ended up happening. I think the Tyler Van Dyke injury had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
But this year, it looks like that October 21st matchup in Miami when the Clemson crack-headed Tigers come into town. I think that decides who plays Florida State for the conference.
That you know what, and we're gonna get into it in a second, but is the ACC good?
The top teams in the ACC are good.
But even like, I mean, Duke upsetting Clemson, and obviously Clemson isn't Clemson anymore, but or at least we don't think they are. But they have some teams. I think they have what is it, 8 teams in the top 25 or some, or maybe that's the Pac-12. Maybe I'm mistaken, but they ACC, not your slightly older brother's ACC.
No, absolutely not. I really think the ACC is better this year.
Mhm.
Um, but I think those mid and worst teams. I mean, Boston College was in a shootout with Holy Cross yesterday. Let's
UVA lost to James Madison.
Yeah, like the I will say the Louisville and lesser teams are nowhere close to the lesser teams in the SEC.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can get on board with that. Yeah.
Um, and then you've got a really interesting point in here, so I'll let you go with that.
All right. So before we get to the last couple games here, so this is a real thing, and it's kind of seems like blasphemy, even bringing it up on here, but I mean, it's a conversation that we should have. So, can the SEC still possibly get 2 teams in the playoff? Obviously, you've seen it twice. We've had 3 different occasions where it's been an all SEC national championship game over the past 15 years, whatever. The league so far within for the first 2 weeks, league's gone 1-4 against the ACC, with the only win being against being Tennessee over Virginia, which again really isn't much to brag about. But Bama got handled at home against Texas on Saturday. Auburn just barely squeaked by Cal. Um, uh, Mississippi State needed overtime to beat Arizona. Arizona of all teams at home, and Florida
Arizona's a
lost
lot
to.
better this year than they were last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. But even then, like 2 mid to below average SEC team, or they should have been able to handle Arizona a little bit better. But still probably recovering from Kevin Sumlin and what what he did there, and Rich Rodriguez for that matter. But Florida also, as we talked about a lot, Florida lost in Salt Lake City to a Utah team that doesn't have a quarterback at all. Like at this point, until what's his face comes back. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name.
Cam Rising.
Yeah, Cam Rising comes back. And we talked about a little bit before. Tennessee struggled at home against Austin P of all teams. So going back to the original question, can the SEC still get 2 teams in the playoff like they've had in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, but my concern is, and so I think the two teams are obviously Georgia, and then I would think it's LSU or Ole Miss. I'm counting
Hmm.
Bama out because they don't look the part. If we're being entirely honest, I mean LSU put up 72 points yesterday.
Yeah.
Let's we may not need to lower them in the grave just yet.
Hmm.
Ole Miss, the undefeated team out of the West that looks like they can actually do some damage to these other teams. The concern for me is that, granted, Southern California has played nobody,
Right.
but their
Yeah.
offense looks unstoppable. Like they look
Yeah.
like Tennessee in September of last year, but
Hmm.
better.
Yeah.
So if no one can stop USC out of the Pac-12, which I still think is going to be a problem considering that their defense isn't good unless they're playing Stanford,
Hmm.
you've obviously got somebody out of the Big Ten.
Hmm.
But I think that this year, because Ohio State is struggling so much, I mean, their best quarterback wears number 33. Like, tough look. Tough
Yeah.
look.
Mhm.
I think I think the Big Ten gets one team. The
Mhm.
SEC gets at least one team.
Okay.
If Texas continues to play this well, they're in the playoff.
Mhm.
So then it really comes down to, can someone force the committee to acknowledge that USC doesn't have a defense?
And that may not even matter because they want. I mean, they definitely are, in the game for getting viewers and things like that. And USC in the playoff would be good for business.
But talk about Ole Miss,
Yeah.
a team that has not only never been to a playoff, but a team that has never been to the SEC championship game.
Hmm.
I think that would get some viewers, and Lane Kiffin always gets viewers.
Yeah. But I mean, my only problem with that is like, would casual fans care that the University of Mississippi Ole Miss would be in there? Like, is that going to catch the casual person like that? Really doesn't follow college football that much and just there for the big moments.
I'm going to say yes because it would be a huge moment if they beat Alabama.
Yeah, that's true. And that game is, I think the game's in 2 weeks, right?
It is.
So ooh, my prophecy's about to come true.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, but if
Um,
this is definitely the time for them to get at them. But yeah, we'll get into that when the time comes.
while we're sitting here just tooting our own horn, let's talk about this Colorado game.
Mm,
So, we honestly don't have a lot for this game just because it went pretty much exactly like we said it was going to go.
mm,
Colorado beat the Huskers 36-14, and Nebraska got a garbage time touchdown for that second touchdown.
mm.
Jeff Sims is exactly who we said he was going to be.
He is who we thought they were.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I
Yeah,
said it last week. How many turnovers does Jeff Sims have?
too many.
Too many. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I don't know a number. Can't quantify it, but
He
too many.
threw at least one pick, and I think he had a fumble as well, but I'd have to go check that.
It must be something about just the Nebraska quarterbacks, is all the Martinez's that they've had, and now Jeff Sims. They just cannot hold on to the ball or just keep it safe. I mentioned in here that if Matt Rule had went in the portal and got somebody else other than Jeff Sims, which I don't, you see the athleticism and all that, it's enticing. Every coach thinks they're the smartest person in the room. They can fix that. But if they had gotten a competent quarterback in Nebraska, they would be way better off and actually be at this point a contender in the Big Ten West, which we talked about them in the offseason, how we thought they would be better. This ain't the way to do it.
No.
Not with Jeff Sims. He's the most giving quarterback in the country. He just wants everybody to have, or everybody else to touch the ball.
Do
He's just
you
very careful.
remember the number that I gave last week for Jeff Sims interceptions or
Mm-mm.
turnovers?
No.
I said three. Would you like to
Uh,
know how many turnovers he had?
all season or just this game?
Just this game.
3?
Three.
Oh, so oh man.
My horn has been tooted quite a bit today.
You toot it all over us. But man, so Dion's kids are awesome, right?
Absolutely.
Uh, and yet again, Travis Hunter played over 120 snaps yet again. The first week's snap count I've seen anywhere between 125 and 147 or something like that. Some ungodly amount. I think this week, on offense and defense, I think he only missed like a total of, I want to say it was either 9 or like 14 plays altogether.
And so I have the box score pulled up, so I'll go back to it and tell you exactly how many plays were run.
Yeah. But he only missed a handful of plays. Like I think he missed more on defense than he did offense. But
Um, No, go ahead because I
I'll say
have notes.
while you're getting that, so Shador Sanders, you can kind of put him up there in the top 4 or 5 of the Heisman contenders at this moment because he has had an unreal first 2 weeks, bringing Colorado back to prominence, winning 2 games when a lot of people said they're going to lose, or only maybe win 3. He's going to beat the over by October, or maybe even before that. But Shador had 394 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. And through 2 games, Deion's baby boy has again, like through 2 games, he has 903 total yards and 7 total touchdowns.
There were a total of 140 plays.
Okay, so yeah, so he he
Somewhere
only
in the
played in
neighborhood,
20.
yeah,
Yeah,
somewhere in the neighborhood of 120 to 130 plays. Again.
that, that's not sustainable. I
Well, you say
especially
that,
as
but after the games, he's dancing in the locker room. Like, that dude doesn't get tired.
it's it's something to see. Like I mean, this it's unreal. He's a modern day Charles Woodson, and he again obviously Charles won the Heisman, beating Peyton Manning, of course. Can't never forget. But it's it's unreal. Like we appreciate it for however long we have it for, whether it's a couple weeks or the rest of the season or whatever. Like it's special.
It's only week 2, and Colorado has 2 Heisman contenders.
Hmm. Who'd have thought? Well, that's kind of. I don't know about the Heisman part of it, but no. Again, toot toot.
Yeah, we're just
I
gonna
didn't mean to
keep
do it like that. Just one horn.
we're just gonna keep tooting here because we were believers since we did the original puncher's chance, way before we started having people on. We said that this team could be a lot better. We
Mm-hmm.
said minimum they were going to a bowl game.
Mm-hmm. And they're on track for that, if not more. In
If we're using if we're using Pfizer's way of calculating statistics here, they're 100% better than they were last year.
Yeah,
They won 1 game last year. They won 2 games this year. That's 100% better.
100% efficacy. There we go.
Yeah,
If I could
100%.
say that. Whew. And just one other thing that I had put in there about it. The This isn't meant to be a compliment by any means, but the Buffs' offensive line is on par with Alabama. Yeah. On the surface, it's, oh yeah, that sounds good. No, I mean,
No.
Shador is running for his life out there, and granted, he probably holds onto the ball a little bit too long, and he takes probably more unnecessary shots than he should. But he's been sacked 11 times through 2 games. I think he got sacked 8 times in this game. And it's something around there. It's too much for him to
In the
be.
Big Ten, they may not believe in offense, but they damn sure believe in defense.
Mhm. They'll hit you. They can't outrun you, but they will hit you when they get to you.
All right, you ready to move on to bandwagon teams?
Yeah.
So my bandwagon team obviously is Washington. They had Tulsa at home this week. Washington was 34-point favorites, over under 64 and a half. I'm a little upset they didn't hit that over because I did lose money on it. Just gonna say. Um, so my second favorite dogs for this season managed to not cover the spread by a singular point. They also managed to not hit the over by 12. It was a sad day for my bets on this game, but they still won the game by 33 points in a good performance where Penix was 28 for 38, 409 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And
Mhm.
I am still extremely high on this team and what they can do in the Pac 12, especially with what Oregon, primarily their defense, was able to do in Lubbock.
The Oregon defense showed out, and you can't expect anything less than a Dan Lanning coach team, or from a Dan Lanning coach team. Trying to pull up one thing real quick before I get into.
No, you're good. I was more taking a jab at Oregon giving up 30 plus points.
Yeah, I don't know. I was so that kind of leads into what I was going to talk about because Texas Tech is my bandwagon team, and they're making me look silly so far. Um, not that they've gotten blown out at all by any chance, but so Oregon did win. They won 38 to 30, and I didn't bet on the spread of this game, but I did hit the over 67,
Ooh.
and again that was in That was in question because it hit at 38. So my team came through with a point, so that was cool. Or my set of teams there was more of Oregon than Texas Tech, but um, hit the over on a miracle pick six by Oregon in the last minute of the game. But Texas Tech, the Red Raiders, are in some trouble. Tyler Shuck has been a turnover machine these first 2 weeks. In the game, he didn't play awful if you don't look at the turnovers. He had 3 touchdowns through the air. And he ran over 100 yards in the game as well. I mean, he was pretty much their whole offense. But he had 4 turnovers that just absolutely killed any momentum that they had in this game. If he can clean it up at all, I still feel really good about Texas Tech once they hit the Big 12 play, especially considering how like Oklahoma looked against, I guess SMU, which I did hit on that one barely, but I still hit on that one. But um, I'll feel good about Texas Tech once they hit the Big 12 play. But now that they're 0-2 for the first time since 1990, their playoff chances are dead in the beginning part of September. So hit the over, but Red Raiders bandwagon is falling apart.
Grab some duct tape. They got it. They got it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you need to in Lubbock. There's nothing else out there. If you break down in the middle of that in that area within like 200 miles, you're done.
Just go to the university. They'll help you out.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so for our other bets of the week, I'll run through mine and then give Mike the floor here. I went a little crazy. I picked a lot of games. I was real confident, you know. So I got Texas over Alabama. They hit the over, so I lost the under 1-1. Ole Miss minus 7.5. But they didn't hit the over, so now I'm 2-2. Took A&M to win the game, cover that 4.5, 2-3. Took Colorado to win and the over, but they didn't hit the over, so now I'm 3-4. Tulsa, Washington over 3-5. For my bets that I actually put money on, Notre Dame at NC State. Notre Dame covered that 7.5. Got that money. Brings me up to, what's that, 4-4? 4-5? Something like that?
I think so.
4-5.
Yeah.
App State at UNC. Double overtime thriller if you didn't watch it.
Again, another thriller between the two.
I think App State probably should have won that game because there was pass interference that should have been called on their fourth down in double overtime. But anyways, still hit the over. That's all that matters. Yep. Brings me up to 5-5. Stanford at USC almost hit the over in the first half. And then USC took their starters out on offense. Kept the starters in on defense. Took the starters out on offense. Did not hit the over on that. 5-6. And then Auburn, Cal. These teams both put up a bunch of points last week. Both gave up a bunch of points last week. You know, logic says two mid teams that put up and gave up points. Over all day, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No. They got half. They got half of the over.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up the day 5-7. If you can't tell, I'm a little frustrated about that.
When you think of Pac-12 After Dark, you don't think the under, and it even like significantly under what the 53.5. So that's what we get for staying up late and watching that game.
I didn't. I watched the USC game hoping it hit the over, and at halftime I was like, oh, dude, they're definitely getting this.
I was kind of in and out. I ended up falling asleep, I think, at halftime, but still, it was probably a little bit too late.
But good news is, between last week and this week, I am 10-8, which means if you bet on all of my bets, even when I got crazy last week, you'd still be in the green.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, depending on your units and all that, for sure. So don't fade you. People are listening. Don't fade them yet. Now, me on the other hand, it's gonna. I felt like it was a lot worse than it actually was once I was looking at this. So my week 2, I took Texas to cover, hit that, so 1-0, hit the over on that as well, so I'm 2-0. The Ole Miss minus 7.5 when we talked about it, even at 8. I took Ole Miss there. They covered that. I didn't touch the over under. So at this point, I'm 3-0. We both took Texas A&M to cover the 4.5. Definitely missed out on that, but I did take the over. So and Miami almost covered that on their own. So at that point, I'm 1, 2, 3, 4-1. I did take Nebraska to cover the minus 3.5. I'm not Nebraska. I'm sorry, Colorado to cover the 3.5. Another dub there. And I did not bet on Texas Tech to cover, but I did take them in the over on that. So again, feel happy about that. That miracle cover in the last minute, even though it cost Texas Tech the game. Um, Hit on that, but then right here, um, so I'm going to apologize wholeheartedly how awful I felt about this, and it felt so right at the time, just because I talked about how disrespectful the spread was, and I said, forget it. I'm going to go Vandy money line at Wake. They ended up getting the crap kicked out of them.
Yep.
That plus 325 was enticing. That's why I took it, and I apologize. I'm never betting on Vandy again, especially the rest of this season. Not touching them. I learned my
Week
lesson.
0, take Vandy all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
Weeks
Yeah,
once the real games start.
yeah, yeah. That was definitely my Jimbo bet of the game or the week, I should say. Um, and another stupid thing, and again, you criticized me at the time doing this. I should have just caved into peer pressure, but Iowa State, I took the over 36. I think it was 33. Um, Iowa yet again did not score 25 points. So
It
shout
looks
out.
like he's going to have to fire his son at the end of the season.
He is gonna who is I think he plays one of the Michigan directional Michigan schools. I think next week he's gonna have to put up like 70 on them to give himself a chance for the 25
So
point average.
they total was 33. Total was 33.
Yeah. So the so again, I thought that was disrespectful. Apparently, they were being generous with 36. I got to bite on it because I am not smarter than Vegas. And then, by the grace of God, Oklahoma did cover the minus 16 over SMU, which going into the fourth quarter, it did not look like that was going to happen. Dylan Gabriel is hot garbage, and they need to pull him as soon as possible if Oklahoma wants to have any shot at playing in the Big 12 championship.
We need to go
But
from hot garbage to general booty.
never. Oh, did you see his commercial that he had?
No.
Um, Make sure you're by yourself. Don't show it to your wife because it's going to cause problems. Um, it it's an underwear commercial. It's a ride. Um, at least from the part that I saw of it. But again, I didn't watch the whole thing because yeah. No, okay. Anyway, I digress. But uh, just thinking about General Booty in his underwear. Um, but overall, week 2, I did go 7-3, even though it didn't feel like it at the time. But uh, in the plus there, and my overall record through 2 weeks is 11-5. So
I
shout out
got some
me.
work to do this week.
Yeah, I'm 11-5. You're 10-8. Both winning records. So just quick maths from UGA degree there. So at 21 and
13.
13.
There we go. I like it better when they're combined.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we should add that on there as well, especially if one of us has a subpar week going forward.
I will say, while Iowa does have Western Michigan next week, um, let's see, Western Michigan. I feel like they did something. Nope, they did. They got blown up by Syracuse yesterday.
Oh yeah, Syracuse beat the crap out of them in the Carrier Dome that doesn't have air conditioning.
But here's the problem. They play at Penn State the next week, and they may not score.
I think that might be their whiteout game at noon, which is another crime. But shout out Fox for that.
Penn State actually already had their whiteout game. It was West Virginia.
Was it? Oh, okay. Well,
Yes.
that was still a noon game too. I think, right? Or 3:30. I don't know.
Um,
It wasn't. It was definitely not at night. Oh no,
it,
maybe it was.
no, it was 7:30.
Okay, so yeah, because it was on the cock. So
Yep.
that's right.
All right, so something that we may have done a couple of times last year, but I do want to actually get it going this year. we're gonna have a nothing finer moment of the week. It can be something ridiculous or heartwarming. And this week, it's to me, it's got to be the end of the Nebraska Colorado game. So if you didn't watch, Dion had already said, reached out to Matt Rule and said the student body said they're going to rush the field after the game if we win. But I want you to know I am not trying to be disrespectful. I'm not with how my foot is, because he had multiple toes amputated.
Hmm.
I'm not going to try to get across the field in the student body and potentially get injured again. It's not disrespect. I'm just trying not to get injured, right?
Yeah.
So Matt Rule, after a just awful showing from Nebraska, called a timeout with 1 second left and met Dion at the 50-yard line for a handshake, a hug, and a little bit of talk back and forth. And then they just, after the timeout, took a knee, finished the game. That's that's the kind of stuff that I like to see, especially with all the hate that Dion's gotten from other coaches.
And Matt Rule too, like he talked about how there's a right way and wrong way to build a program, and he kind of threw Dion under the bus. I think Shador talked about it after the game too, like this is personal for what Rule said about my dad. So for them to come together and do that was pretty cool. When there was probably some bad blood there between the two, but they hashed it out.
Yeah, no, I just thought that was really cool. That
Mm,
even with the shade that was thrown by both in the off season, and Dion reached out, even if he doesn't like Matt Rule, he was like, "Hey, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but this is the situation."
mm,
And then Matt Rule, even though they got essentially the shit kicked out of him, still
mm.
took the time to do that. That was, like we talked about at the top, just be a good person. You know,
Yeah, it
thought
doesn't
that was
cost you
fun.
anything. Just be a good person. People remember you more by the way you make them feel than anything.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm.
And I can tell you what would make us feel good. Following us on Instagram, we are 899 followers right now, so get us to 900. We are trying to do everything we can there. Instagram, I already said that. Twitter/X, whatever it is at FinderPod. The Facebook group and YouTube, just search us there. You will find us.
Mm.
Um, Rate and review for a sticker. Send us
Mm.
a screenshot. I promise we will not unconsensually send you feet pics from Mike.
Because that will get you suspended without pay or fired.
Yes. Yeah. So, just help us do cool things. Be good people.
Yeah. And one last thing before we get out of here. BetUS. Use the code, click the link in all of our and the post that we put up there. Make yourself some
Yes.
real money.
Go through our link for that promo. I promise you,
Mm.
if you listen to us, look, neither of us had necessarily great weeks, but if you listen to us, 21-13. That's
Mm.
well into the profit side there.
Yeah,
Um,
there's other podcasts like that are much more, well known and renowned with, one of the like top professionals in the business. Like Tom Fernelli, I think went like 1-11 in week one. And that guy's like what I think one of the best guys to cover the sport. So we're doing better than him. So
yeah,
shout out
because we're
us.
we're real degenerates.
Yeah, say that again.
As always, guys, remember there is nothing finer in the land.
Than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.